All right, so let's talk MMA. Let's talk some fighting, guys. So this week, not the most name-worthy card, but UFC, obviously, you guys know by now if you're big fight fans, we are on Fight Island. This is our fourth trip, I think, to Fight Island. And this is the card right between some really big cards. You had Israel Adesanya last week, Izzy and Costa, and then you have Khabib Nurmagomedov and Justin Gaethje in a couple of weeks. So these are one of the fight nights they put on before the UFC 254 card. But we're talking about the headline fights and what it means for the women's 135 division in the UFC. And we're talking Holly Holm and Irene Adalia. We're also going to talk Germaine De Randamie and Juliana Pena as well, because that fight, to be quite honest, I think I know how they're going to book this and the way they should book it. So we'll start with Germaine De Randamie and Juliana Pena. De Randamie, a high-level kickboxer, maybe one of the best kickboxers I've ever seen outside of someone else we're about to talk about. And at 135 pounds, if your name's not Amanda Nunes, she doesn't really lose to you. But this fight was something special. She takes on Juliana Pena, and Juliana's trying to get De Randamie to the ground. Gets her to the ground a couple of times in the first couple of rounds. But you're seeing, again, someone that not known for any kind of ground game, not known for any kind of submission game, a Dutch kickboxer with, over 100 fights and just a wealth of experience on the feet, but for the most part known to not have the greatest ground game, jiu-jitsu, wrestling. But, and again, I don't know who could have predicted this, because I didn't, and I'm sure you guys that are fight fans didn't. Late in the third round, Juliana Pena is fighting for these takedowns, takedown after takedown. And even in the second round, De Randamie looked like at a couple of moments she might have had a couple submissions in there. It looked like a Darce for a little bit, a guillotine attempt, and then she let go, got scrambled and got back to the feet. But in the third round, Juliana Pena shoots the double, leaves her head exposed, and Germaine De Randamie, I think in her first submission victory, gets a guillotine, and Pena doesn't tap, she goes flat. De Randamie with a tight squeeze, and she gets a submission victory. Again, I could be wrong here, but I think it's her first submission victory, at least in the UFC. That is a huge, huge notch in her belt, because if you watched her versus Amanda Nunes a couple of months back, or it was longer than that, but a while back, you saw that the gaps between them were that De Randamie looked really good on the feet, and Amanda makes a lot of people look dumb on the feet. She head kicked Holly Holm and knocked her out. She overhand right to Cyborg, knocked her out. So she's put girls down time after time, and De Randamie was doing well. She was not only holding her own, but I would say winning that fight on the feet. But Amanda Nunes is smart, and she's a complete fighter. She takes De Randamie down and doesn't let her up, and scores points, some nasty elbows from the top. She's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. People forget about this. And so Amanda won that fight. But now we're seeing a development, an evolution maybe in De Randamie. And we've seen that with fighters over years and years of trying to train on something they hadn't really trained for a long time. We're seeing it with Izzy now. Israel Adesanya his takedown defense is some of the best at the 185 division. And people are like, why aren't they just taking this guy down? They can't. Not only are they the fear of the knee or the kick or whatever, but his takedown defense, even if he gets taken down, Kelvin Gastelum took him down, he popped right back up. Derek Brunson tried to take him down. Fast hips, double unders, use the fence, slide away. He has the tools there. And even off his back, he almost tapped Kelvin Gastelum with a triangle off his back. And so we're seeing that some fighters, as they go along, natural athletes, really good athletes, are learning at least the basis of grappling. And De Randamie looked like she showed that. That's a big notch in her belt. And where she goes from here, well, we're going to talk about it, because you could say, yes, Amanda Nunes looking to possibly, defend the 135 title soon. We're going to see, but who would she defend it against? She's already beat Holly Holm, head kicked her into oblivion. She's already beat Germaine De Randamie. Either of those fights, they work, but does anybody really want to see those? What I think people want to see is what we're going to talk about next. Holly Holm versus Irene Adalia. And wow. Can you dominate more than Holly Holm did in this fight? It looked like this fight was set up to be a passing of the torch, possibly, to Irene Adalia, younger women's bantamweight, someone that was coming up the ranks, and Holly Holm just snuffed all that out in a heartbeat. 187 total strikes landed from Holly Holm to not even half of that from Irene Adalia. 154 significant strikes landed, and Holly Holm lands 5 takedowns. After attempting 14, she dominated this fight from pillar to post, round 1 to round 5, and she showed not only strength in the clinch, which we've known Holly's strong. We've seen her push Cyborg into the cage. She is strong. Showed great takedowns, and then toward the end of that fight, she started to get stronger and coming forward more and more aggressive and landing big combinations toward the end of that fight. Holly Holm wanted this, and by God, she got it. 45, 50, 45, 50, 45, and 50, 44 for Holly Holm. A dominant unanimous decision. And that brings us to the point that I wanted to make. Holly Holm's already fought Amanda Nunes. Germaine De Randamie has already fought Amanda Nunes. Both these ladies have lost, and both these ladies have fought each other before, but this was a very, very good and controversial fight. If you guys remember back, Holly Holm, Germaine De Randamie for the inaugural 145-pound title. I'm pretty sure that was the first fight. Germaine De Randamie wins this fight, but if you go back and you recall this fight, there were some controversial twice after the bell shots on Holly Holm. And one of those shots that De Randamie landed on Holly Holm after the bell rocked her and set her down. If you're telling me that someone gets hit after the bell, you have, 30 seconds, I don't know what it is, 30, 45 seconds on your stool to rest and recuperate and then get back out there, you're not okay. You're not anywhere near the headspace you were before that. And a lot of people, myself included, thought Holly Holm should have won that fight based off of what should have been, in my opinion, at least 1, but maybe 2 points taken away from Germaine De Randamie. But even without those 2, Holly was doing work on the feet. She was, again, my opinion, outpointing De Randamie, was winning the fight, putting more pressure on. She was having more success in what these 2 ladies are great at, the kickboxing, the stand-up. And De Randamie, obviously, toward the later parts of the round, Holly was not the same after the big KO shot between the rounds that she landed. So I would love to see this fight run back. And I'm not calling Germaine De Randamie a dirty fighter in the least. It happens sometimes. And she's shown since then that she is not that. So accidental or not, it's not really up for debate that it should have been at least 1 point taken, but I'm not calling her a dirty fighter. It just happened. It is what it is. But I would love to see this rematch because it was a competitive fight. It was a very competitive fight. And if this is for maybe a number 1 contendership, because listen, Amanda has cleaned out this division. She has taken the Windex, she's taken the Lysol, she's taken the bleach, and cleaned it all out. And said, who's next? Anyone. There's no one there. So if you're going to make a rematch with Amanda and somebody, have these 2 ladies fight it out, figure out who is that true number 1 contender, and maybe Holly has a dominant performance again, and we start to believe, hey, listen, maybe Holly's changed a couple of things up. Maybe she's ready for the rematch with Amanda Nunes. Maybe she won't get caught with a shin to the forehead this time. Maybe. Or you look at Germaine De Randamie, and maybe she has a dominant. Maybe she subs Holly Holm, and you're saying, wait a second. Has she learned this amount in this short a time? We've seen it happen. Israel Adesanya has learned this amount in that short of a time period to be able to defend himself against, high-level grapplers. If De Randamie truly has evolved and stepped her game up that quickly, and she were to do that to Holly Holm, that would increase some intrigue for a rematch with Amanda Nunes. Now, do I know if Amanda Nunes would win both those fights again? Probably, but you never know. This is MMA. You never know. Yes, Amanda Nunes is the GOAT, and she is taking out contender after contender at 2 weight classes. It's fucking insane to believe that she's doing what she's doing at the level she is, and she's not a bigger superstar. But if you have to create some intrigue for the 135-pound division, that's where that's exactly where you're going to have to find it. These 2 girls fighting it out to figure it out. Maybe we put an earpiece in De Randamie's ear and say, we're going to direct feed you the bell as soon as it rings so you don't just throw a haymaker and knock the girl out after the bell. We'll figure that part out. But I'd like to see the rematch. Let's see what they do.